Welcome to Specific Life. This is the 30th edition of 10 Life Hacks with PVC. Let's begin. Now if you like using zip ties like I do to hold stuff together, they're great, but sometimes they can be challenging to store and organize. Until now. To build this, I used a combination of 2-inch PVC and 1-inch PVC. I measured everything out and I cut it to size. Now, I used clear PVC here. You don't have to use that. I just had some extra white PVC. I'll do the same, but I had a feeling my clear PVC here would make everything pop, and I love just the color and texture of it. Now, to put this together, I laid out the sizes of the way I wanted it and just used some PVC cement in between each of these and glued them together very carefully. Then on the bottom, I just cut out the shape of some thin plywood, and it looks almost like a cloud. It looked pretty neat. But I super glued that to the bottom. Then on the back, I just drilled some holes, and I drilled holes into the PVC using the wood and put some screws in, and did attachment so I could easily attach it to my French cleat setup. Now, the great thing about this is not only does it work for the zip ties, but I have some spare room for some pencils, some pens, and my markers that I use all the time too. So it's a great way to use PVC to organize. Now this next idea was inspired by a viewer named Nick Longstaff. He came up with the idea of possibly using a cane to pull on the door. Now this would be great for people that maybe have bad backs or maybe a little bit older in age and you just can't stretch that far. So I came up with this. This is just a piece of 1/2-inch PVC with a 90-degree angle and an end cap so it doesn't mess up your door, and you can easily grab your door and pull it. The great thing about this is you can, in most cars, store it right here between the seat and the door. It's out of the way, it should stay in place relatively easy, and you can use it whenever you need it. Now here's a great way to make a simplistic hat or coat holder for your shop. Now I just took some thin, this is the 1-inch PVC, and I just cut it to the width I wanted, and then I cut it long ways. And then I took a heat gun and heated it up. Now of course use a respirator or well ventilated area, and drilled some holes, added some screws, and I can attach this to any wall or door that I'd like. Now if you've ever used a bench vise before, you know it's going to hold it, but if you stick anything in here, it's going to score up the side. So if I was to stick this pipe in here and crank it down, it would hold it, but it's going to score this up, and you don't want that. So if you get some sewage and drainage pipe, this is the thin stuff, and you want to take a heat gun and you heat it up and you can form it over. Just make sure you're going to wear some kind of a respirator and a good well ventilated area, because you don't want to breathe any fumes that might possibly come off of this. Once you heat it up carefully, you may want to wear some gloves too. You can then conform your pipe right over to the edge, cut it to the size you want, and now you can take whatever you need to use, stick it in its place. Now you can crank down your vise, it'll hold it, you don't have to worry about messing up the sides. Now this next idea came from a viewer named Tracy Phillips. Now this may not look like much, but her daughter is in a wheelchair, and she wanted to turn her wheelchair into a motorcycle. Now they were going to an event called Walker Stalker Con, and she wanted to dress up like one of the characters, but she didn't want her daughter just to be in a wheelchair, so she designed this setup with a cool little headlight so that it could turn her wheelchair into an awesome motorcycle. Well, they went to the event, they had a blast. And I'm glad, Tracy, thank you so much for sharing this idea, not just with me, but so that I could share with everybody out there who possibly has a child or themselves might be in a wheelchair and want to turn their wheelchair into a cool looking setup. Now this is all 1/2-inch PVC and fittings, very simple, very easy to put together. She used some clips down at the bottom to attach it to the wheelchair, and this light was one of those just press on lights so you could easily turn it on and off. Now that is a great idea. Now for this next idea, I used some 3-inch PVC pipe and a nice high-powered heat gun. You need a good heat gun so that you can easily bend your PVC pipe. Now to do this, make sure you do this in a well-ventilated area, because you don't want anything that might happen to burn on this or chemicals that might come off the PVC. You do not want to breathe that. So do this in a well-ventilated area. Now once I had it all heated up, I flattened it out with some wood, and then I ended up creating some awesome batarangs. Now these are of course just PVC plastic, so you can throw them, but as you see here, I broke the tip off. So I don't recommend throwing these if you're going to do it, well, anything hard, maybe at a pillow. Now I made these in a previous video so you can see a little more in depth on exactly how I did this. And I'll put the link to that in the description below, so make sure you check that out. Now a shop fan is a great idea to keep it cool and just to keep the air circulating so you can continually get fresh air. But sometimes keeping it on the floor or having to put it up high can be challenging. That is, unless you create a little stand. Now I'm using 3/4 inch PVC and I have a T and a sides that run out to a total of 4 elbows, and I just have a configuration. You can design this however you wish. On the sides here, as you see, I have bolts running through that run into the body, the steel body of the fan. Now, whenever you do this, make sure that the inside here does not come in contact with any of the fan blades or it can mess those up. But once you have everything ready and set up, you can now have a fan that you can direct in a lot of different angles and be a lot more useful. Now if you have a child that you're trying to teach the alphabet to, well, you could teach them the B book, or you can amplify this by making a B. So not only will they be able to enjoy the book, but they can handle this and have a little hands-on while they're learning. Now the great thing about PVC and all the different shapes and configurations that it comes in is that, well, you're not limited to a B. You can make all the letters of the alphabet, and you can make it in any form or fashion that you wish, and it can come in different shapes and different sizes, and you can make this a lot more fun, or you can hang these on the wall. So that's a great way to help with a child's learning by taking some PVC pipe and making the alphabet. Now if you have a small little area that has a lot of drainage and it just runs and creates that little mess on the ground, you can always create a simple little gutter system. Just using some PVC, cut it about in half. This is just the sewage and drainage pipe, the real thin stuff. And you want to drill you some holes and attach it either with some nails or some screws, and that way the water can help drain off in a direction that you want and not just fall on the ground and create a mess. Now here's a cool little idea if you're trying to do some kind of a decoration. Now this is just a fake little fencing setup, and I got it cut on an angle so that it looks like it's almost spiked. And you can design this however large or small you want. To build this, I just used some furring strips. This is just some cheap wood, and I used a hole saw to drill some holes through it. And then I just put the PVC about to where I want it, and then I just used some hot glue to glue over it. Believe it or not, hot glue sticks to wood very, very well. And of course, you can design this to any size you want and use it for anything you want. Very simple, very easy, and just some simple 1/2 inch PVC, nothing fancy. Go out there, have some fun decorating. Now I hope you enjoyed some of these great ideas, and if you did, make sure you click the like button and tell us what you think about it in the comments. I also have some other great videos right over here, so make sure you check those out. Otherwise, have fun building.